My brothers, today, September 11, 24 years ago, our nation lost nearly 3,000 lives in the worst terrorist attack our nation has ever experienced. September 11, 2021 may seem like a distant memory for many of us. Many of us were quite young back then. Many of us were not born back then. Yet, we come to hear of this evil, we come to hear of this violence, and we know that the effects continue even until today. Imagine what life was like even in the 3 states in the U.S. where this occurred. In New York, in Virginia, in Pennsylvania, through the nation. The news, having to hear this. Imagine what that day was like. People's lives were changed forever because of the attacks of 9/11. The bereaved, the injured, and even those who were not directly affected. And sometimes when we face darkness, the temptation is to get even more so in the darkness. Even though we know that this darkness occurred, we also have to take a record of the life-giving events that happened on that same day. We have to think of the first responders, the police officers, the firefighters, the medics, and even the chaplains, the priests who were giving life to people in the midst of darkness. We have to think of people that we see just loving and hugging everyone around them, even strangers. How parents would kiss their children in a new way and say, "I love you," and actually mean it. How adults would call their parents they haven't spoken to in a long time and say, "I miss you." How teenagers would call their grandparents and say, "I love you," in the midst of darkness. News reporters who would usually just report the news, they started giving hugs to people they were interviewing, because even in the face of darkness, there is always a possibility of light. Our hearts were broken whether we were there on that day, whether we heard about it, whether we saw it on the news, or whether we heard about it later. We did not hide. Even from that woundedness, even from that pain, we became healers, what Henry Nouwen would call wounded healers. Now, this was many years ago, and today we have been watching the news. Last week alone, we watched the news, and it is right in front of our eyes how much violence is going on in our world today, how divided our world is today. Over 64,000 Palestinians have been killed in Gaza since the war began. We see this every day, the numbers increasing every day. All around the world, over 1 million casualties between Ukraine and Russia. This is right in front of our eyes, in our own time. These are human beings. Sometimes we hear these numbers and it sounds like something out of the blue. These are human beings. And these are just the ones that are reported. Just 3 months ago in our nation, we heard about a congressperson, I believe a speaker, and her who were shot, who were killed. And we all know what happened just yesterday. Charlie Kirk, the popular conservative, these are unbelievable things happening right in front of our eyes. And we have to face the fact that it's almost like with all this violence that happens, there's a kind of numbness that is possible that we face the temptation of numbness. We, through the media, and it's just another school shooting, another murder, and it's very easy to get numb. When I was listening to a video on social media yesterday, it was talking about how the person was arguing about how things we have forgotten that we were never supposed to see things like this. This is not normal. We were never supposed to see things like this, but on a daily basis, it's almost become normal. And people respond to these events. People respond to these tragedies. And many not with the voice of Christ. But the fact is, everybody responds to it. We too, as Christians, we too, as sons and daughters of God, we too, as those who are called to a vocation in which we become the hands and the feet and the face of Christ, we too will be responding to these situations that are happening in our own time. We too will respond to these tragedies. But we cannot respond to these tragedies just as another political figure or just as another influencer or just as another person. No, we have to respond with the voice of Christ. We respond as shepherds of the church. And to respond with the voice of Christ, we have to begin practicing it in our own very small circles, whether it is with our friends, whether it is with our family, whether it is in our own seminary family. Sometimes we think about responding to things and we think about just what to say or how to say it. But Christ is inviting us today to think about how we live it. How did St. Paul put it? Put on as God's chosen ones, holy and beloved, heartfelt compassion, kindness, humility, gentleness, patience, bearing with one another, forgiving one another. If one has a grievance against another, as the Lord has forgiven you, so must you also do. And over all, put on love, which is the bond of perfection. We heard this also in the gospel. How did Jesus put it? Love your enemies. Do good to those who hate you. Bless those who curse you. Pray for those who mistreat you. Stop judging. Stop condemning. Forgive and give. The way Christ responds to the evil around us, it's so different how the world would want to easily respond to these things. Yes, we have to be angry about what happens. Yes, we have to be sad about what happens. But we also have to think about, how do we respond? Does my response cause more division? Does my response cause more destruction? Or does my response bring healing? Practicing this is very important, as Pope Paul VI says in Evangelii Nunciandi. It says the modern person listens more willingly to witnesses rather than to teachers. And if he does listen to teachers, it is because there are witnesses. We have to live it. But we don't do it by our power. We only do it by the grace of God. Because Jesus feels the hurt that we feel in our world today. And Jesus wants to respond to the hurt that we feel today. But he wants to do it through our hands, through our feet, through our hearts, through our presence. Are we going to give Jesus a chance?